Welcome in, everybody, to the Winner's Circle yet again, where we relive the iconic moments of the 2023 disc golf season with the people that made them happen. And this week, we have Parker Welck reliving the phenomenal victory at the Dynamic Disc Open this year. Parker, thank you for joining us, my friend.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Well, Emporia is a pretty historic place. I mean, some pretty phenomenal victories have been had there, whether it's the World Championships or, the Glass Blown Open or the Dynamic Disc Open. But everyone knows what to expect coming into Emporia. It's one of the windiest places on the tour. You get some of the most unpredictable results in regards to how you play. When you were driving out to Emporia this year, what were you doing to mentally prepare?
Probably the least amount out of anyone that played that tournament. I was kind of just over disc golf because I felt like I was playing really well the week before at the Portland Open, and I never made the cut, so I booked a flight home and went home to see my wife, and I was just kind of mentally out of it for disc golf, and I didn't really touch a disc until the day before the tournament where I had one practice round, and it felt good. It felt like I was home just being in Emporia. I got family out there, and I've played there before in 2009 or 2012. I forgot which one Junior Worlds was at. But yeah, I mean, it felt great being there. It's like a second home almost.
During those practice rounds that week, what were you experiencing in regards to the weather? Was it surprisingly unwindy? Was it super windy, just like we expect? How was it out there?
It was nice actually. I was playing with Jake Brown. We were flying through the course, and then we caught up to like Gannon's big group with all those guys, Alden, Ezra, um, and we ended up just playing with those guys, and we were just having a ton of fun. It was just like good vibes. We were just hanging out. It was pretty nice weather as well.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Alden Harris going into the final day. He was the one that everyone was chasing down. There was kind of a log jam up top. He was tied with Calvin Heimberg. You were tied with Matty O for third place. There was just so many players who could take the victory down going into this final day. Let's actually jump to the action on hole one. I want you to tell me how you're feeling being tied for third, watching the leader tee off.
Yeah, I mean, in this moment, it was cool. Not a lot of people really knew who I was. So I think when I step up to tee, everyone was kind of just going crazy for me. They loved to see it, the new guy. But I was a little nervous on hole one. I think this was the most nervous I was the entire tournament, was just stepping up to hole one's tee pad.
It's so interesting because this hole is so wide. There's so much green space to land, and yet it's not a given that you're going to stay in bounds.
Yeah, I think even during practice, if there's any sort of wind, you're trying to throw it as hard as you can so it flips over just barely. If you throw in like the hyzer angle, there's a chance it just flips up and goes out of bounds. So, I mean, I was just trying to keep it safe.
Usually we get some sort of tailwind on this hole. What were you guys working with that time?
Yeah, it was like a tail left to right-ish almost. So the hyzers were like not really scooping all the way back to the left.
So then you're stepping up here. Finally, hole one. People are going nuts for you. We love seeing a new face, but you've been playing disc golf a long time. I mean, you've been PDGA member since 2009. This disc golf at the high level is not that new of a thing to you, despite this being your first year of truly touring.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a competitor all my life, even outside of disc golf. Whether it's baseball or other sports, surfing, skating. So it's always just kind of been in my blood to be a competitor. But being on like the highest point of the pro tour and something that everyone in the world comes out to
Mm-hmm.
perform on is incredible.
Well, you mentioned you were having kind of a tough time and you missed the cut at Portland, even though you felt like you were playing solid. You go home. What were those conversations like with your wife back home? Were you kind of opening up to her about your struggles, or were you trying to keep it kind of polished and kept together? What were you talking about with her back home?
Not too much. We were just mostly happy to be together just because I've been on the road for so long, and I tried to go back to her as much as I could, and it was maybe my second or third time throughout the entire year that I actually went home to see her.
Mm-hmm.
So we were just freshly in love again after I flew back to see her, and so we weren't really talking about disc golf too much. It was more just hanging out, having fun, and making more memories together.
Well, I'm sure, especially being on tour, you can't not think about disc golf all the time. It's kind of hard to even think about anything else. I'm sure that was incredibly recharging for you coming back here to Emporia.
Absolutely. It was phenomenal. I got to take my head out of disc golf for a little bit. Like I said the week before, I was playing really well. Just nothing was. There's like one piece missing or something. I was making all my putts, or one drive was bad or something like that. But I went to the zoo when I came home and with my wife, and just felt like I lost everything, and uh, it was kind of cool. But going back on tour, it just instantly snapped together, and learned how to play again.
I've talked to players when they're playing these final rounds and they do end up winning. They say, I felt the pressure, but I felt this almost calm pressure that I was able to tap into. Were you feeling just outrageously nervous? Like, how exactly were you feeling just walking down the fairway of one?
So those three guys that I was playing with were well. I had a pretty good warm up round two. I wasn't playing with like top of the top dogs. But then round three, Calvin. This is my first time like really really competing against him because round
Mhm.
two I wasn't. He was gonna smoke me, but we ended up like kind of being together round two, and then round three I already kind of played with him a little bit, so it wasn't too bad. But it was still like in the back of my mind, playing with these top guys. It's kind of nervous, but I'm happy
I
Matty O
mean,
and Alden were on the card.
for sure. I mean, this is a card of really just enjoyable people to play disc golf with, and yet they are also all capable of taking down these big victories. I mean, Matteo and Calvin have won numerous tournaments, and um, Alden is another one of those young players, just like yourself, that was coming along super far this season. But we see two missed putts early on. How close are you paying attention to how they're playing? Are you trying to just stay in your own lane, or is it hard not to pay attention to what they're doing?
Um, I'm always kind of counting in my head, but it's not like okay, I gotta hit this putt to really like
Mhm.
keep up with these guys. It's more of like okay, like I'm back one, he just missed. I'll just make this putt, and then we'll be tied up, and it's like a fresh ball game.
Mhm.
Um, kind of just being calm with it, not like really thinking about it too much, but just
Mhm.
knowing that it's there.
Seems like every 20 footer just needs as much respect as possible in this moment. I mean, you're trailing, but you have a chance to take down a victory. Now, the leader just takes the birdie on one. You are taking your time.
Yeah, so this is kind of my routine. I noticed that if I don't do my routine, even from like 10 feet, I will miss. So I usually do like the
Okay.
two pumps, and then I put it in on the third one. You'll see that on pretty much all my putting. Uh, so I wasn't really
No
nervous
matter the
there. I was just
distance.
pretty much no matter the distance. Yeah, I mean, there's been so many different times where I just step up, maybe pump once and then throw it, and then I'll miss it.
Mhm.
It's it was wild.
For sure. Talk about this hole. I know we're going in a different direction, 90 degrees to the left now from hole one. What kind of wind are you guys facing? And Alden goes roller. That's a pretty aggressive play on this shot.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him go the roller. It looked like he was way too far to the right. I didn't think he had any sort of shot to get to the pin for birdie, so I was trying to throw it just hard, and that one
Hmm.
got away from me a little bit. I threw it just probably 50 feet too high in the air, and it just went out right. And I was kind of nervous with that bush that you see there, the tree bush.
Hmm.
That one usually gets in my way, in everyone's way, if you put it a little too far right.
As
But
long as you're
nothing I'm
not
too
early
worried about,
left. Exactly.
because I know that I'm probably gonna. It's nearly impossible to like bogey this hole unless you go out of bounds or do what Calvin or was it around that Calvin throws it straight out of bounds? No.
No, burns it, but still gets a decent amount of distance. It's so much better to miss right than left, is what you're saying. Because, I mean, the OB
Yes.
starts up pretty short. You can go OB short pretty easily. Like you said, Calvin did that previously in the week. And it's just frustrating. And the wind is not insanely heavy at this point, correct?
Yeah. Not too bad. Nothing you really need to like worry about too much. I think it was like a slight, it's some sort of like headwind. I'm not sure which direction, but definitely wasn't helping my forehand. And then Matteo, absolutely just I couldn't believe that he got through that, and that's like the actual line that he takes, because
Hmm.
that's just insane. That was such a good shot.
I have to think that McCabe is so proud to see that. I just saw 4 different plays on this hole: the outside turnover, the roller, the inside flex, the forehand. I bet he just loves watching something like that,
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, anyone that designs a course love to see just different shots. Makes it a good hole.
especially on a golf course. I mean, I think some of the holes out here at Emporia are some of my favorite traditional golf course holes that we play in the sport. I mean, we're coming up to them now, but I actually really do like this hole.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's not just like you throw it wherever you want and then throw it up again and then tap in your birdie. There's so much more to it, even though it is like fairly open.
Mhm.
This shot, I thought I was kind of in a similar spot and I put it under the basket the round one, and then that one just I don't know what happened. It was so short though.
It's a huge forehand. And I mean, you said there was a little bit of a head cross. Um, from where you were at, it's still pretty uphill. There's a lot of distance left to cover.
Yeah, and I was pretty much cut off. I had to throw such a steep hyzer to even get around that tree that was right in front of me.
Mhm.
And at this point, I saw Calvin. Uh, he's probably gonna take the bogey because he is gonna take the bogey because he pitched out. And right there, I was like, okay, that's a lot easier for me now. I'm probably gonna get a stroke here. If I don't do anything too crazy. And then this one, I'm just trying to get as close as possible, right underneath it.
I was going to say for a second, you started alluding to the fact that you ran this putt, and I don't remember you doing that, but I was expecting you to potentially jam this, but that would have been absurdly aggressive. Four on this
No,
hole is just fine.
yeah, I mean, well, if
Wow.
you and Alden after he hit that, I was like, okay, Alden's winning. That's it.
On hole two,
Yep. I mean, if you're hitting that putt like right away, you something's going good. You're feeling
it's a long
special.
round out here. Yeah. You're definitely feeling special. And, you see people charge really early. Matt's playing some decent golf right now. But this course gets long. I mean, this course just is kind of a long hike. And I think, you can get physically fatigued, but I think the mental fatigue as well. You go out of bounds a couple times. That can creep in and kind of mess with your confidence out here. But right now, you're just playing some steady golf. I mean, you're playing solid right now. How's the body feeling at this point in the season? That's the thing I wanted to ask.
Um, it, During this tournament, I was actually a little beat up. I'm not sure what it was, but seeing my drive on that last shot, I was like kind of, I think it was like my hamstring or
Mm.
something like that. Wasn't feeling too good. Maybe it was a little bit tight. But I was battling through it, and my arm wasn't doing too good either. But I knew that I just had to rip on the forehands, keep ripping the forehands because I had a chance to win. But normally I'd lay off the forehands a little bit.
Oh, so this was just adrenaline pumping through you.
Yeah, I was popping the ibuprofen, uh, throwing some icy hot on the arm when the cameras weren't on me, doing everything I can to, you know, this is a really forehand dominant course for me, I guess. If I'm
That
able to
is,
throw a forehand, I'm gonna throw a forehand.
oh, definitely. I mean, that's a huge sidearm, too. 466 downhill. This is a really tough par three to even get a look at.
Yeah, and
Who is
that one
on the
would have.
bag right now?
That's my mom. She came out because we have family in Kansas as well, so she flew out and she was hanging out with them. I was trying to hang out with them, but I was about to win a tournament, so I was trying my best not to lose it.
Out of all the sidearm players on tour, I want to get your opinion on this. Where does Calvin's sidearm distance rank? It seems like it's just getting better and better each year. And you never think of him as the sidearm guy. You think of him as throwing those low ceiling backhands.
Yeah, his sidearm was so impressive to me, especially on that hole right there where it takes such a bomb of a sidearm to even get down there, even though it is downhill, but you have to swing it out way left in order to like miss all the trees. And the shape of the forehands that he throws are like perfect. That's
Mm-hmm.
like kind of the angle you want to get, like the baby flip up turnover and have it ride left for a while and then eventually come back right. That's what you want. And he does it great.
It's about 35, 40 feet here.
Yeah, kind of sketchy, low ceiling. I knew I had to kind of rip it out the basket. And I'm happy that didn't
Ooh.
spit out because that very well could have.
Yeah, that high middle on those veteran baskets seems to be kind of the sweet spot. How much
Yeah,
putting
and I think
practice are you? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think I only had one spit out, maybe two spit outs on the weekend, and that's probably a lot less than what everyone else had. So I'm thankful for that.
Hmm. Well, this course, especially when the wind starts picking up, you get some of the weirdest spit outs, and sometimes it's really not even the basket. Sometimes you can't do anything about it. You're 15 feet away. There's a 35-mile-an-hour headwind. I don't care how good your putt is.
Like the James Conrad one from I don't know where it went, but he was like 6 feet away on the hole after this,
Yeah,
and he's dead center, and it just the wind just took it out.
433. You're going forehand. That is massive.
Yeah, just
How
keep it over, keep it high, one
how
end of the
hard are you
hole way so
throwing
you
that
don't get
shot?
sketchy. Yeah, pretty good, pretty hard there. I don't know, like 90% probably.
Okay. And yeah, Calvin, I mean, going for similar forehand. And like you said, he's not chopping the forehand. He's still throwing something with a little understability. That one sawed off a bit.
Yeah, and I actually didn't see that shot. I don't know what I was doing. Uh, Maybe I was applying more icy hot or something, but I never actually saw his shot. And then when we walked up to his lie, it took me by surprise, and I was like, "Bro, what are you doing here?" Like, and then is this the one he hit it? Yes, it is. What a shot! And then I think this is the one Matteo hit the cage. No, it's not. Okay, that was round two. Not a horrible spot. He still has a long putt at it, but he's unhappy with it. You want to be a little bit closer on this hole, especially for someone like him who can, hit lines. So, and here we are. Calvin doing Calvin things. Nice easy upshot. Give him that three after the poor drive.
I think back of the old hole that they put here at four, the one by the path. For a righty, I understand how that's kind of a walk in the park shot, kind of a power hyzer, a little bit of OB. But as a lefty, I remember being just completely up a creek on that hole. It was so challenging up towards the path on the left. So this hole, a little bit more balanced, and again gives the lefty and the power sidearm a bit more. Another birdie here.
Yeah, I'm looking it down. That one came out of my hand a little weird. I thought I missed it, but it was like pretty strong side chains. I had a little funky wrist action on the follow
Mm-hmm.
through, but we'll take it. We'll walk away with the bird.
You have such a really clean putting stroke, and I know you've been playing disc golf for a long time. It seems like everybody, whether they're a kid or they're an adult, they have one period of their life where they put in hilarious hours of putting practice. Did you ever have one of those phases in your career as a
This
player?
year, this year it was it for me. I was not a great putter at like the start of the season, and I was pretty much like power gripping my disc. It's kind of hard to believe on the putt,
Wow.
but like very close to power gripping. And I was kind of just like throwing them up like logs at the basket and hoping it was gonna go in. But I switched it up with the help of some old videos to look back on, and yeah.
How many hours a day were you putting into the putt?
Well, being on the road just in a trailer, a lot, a ton. I don't know. I was probably putting for like at least an hour a day, which is kind of a lot if you
It's a
really
lot
think
of
about it.
putts.
Yeah, enough to where you're just getting really tired at the end of it, and you're like, okay, I'm done with this.
This is probably not helpful. This is a really interesting hole too. Break this par four down from your perspective.
Yeah, so this one is actually a very tough hole because you have kind of two options here. You can like kind of let one loose and kind of rip it down the right side, or you can like take a lot off of it and be like smooth and try to land like a little bit further back and to have an option to either go around on either side, or if you throw the power shot, you can just go right up the middle with a nice
Mm-hmm.
approach shot. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew if I
Mhm.
took a little bit off of it, it might be a little less inaccurate just because I was, focusing on just trying to bomb it out there and give myself
Mhm.
a look. And turns out I landed in kind of a sketchy spot where, you got to make a decision. It's usually going to be like the low shot like Alden just did, which he did very well. That this
Mhm.
shot is so hard with the OB so close on both sides. But this tree is like directly in the way. You don't
Oh.
want to land here if you go play.
Yeah, it almost makes you go for the skip, landing out of bounds. Oh, but you
Yeah,
just
and
made it in bounds.
yeah, I mean, in my head, I can just hear my dad yelling at me, just over, keep it over the safe. Don't let ever have it hang out of bounds at any point. And then, so yeah, he's always taught me that.
I noticed, you have some disc golfers in your family. Talk about that relationship with your dad and kind of how he brought you up playing disc golf. Was he strict with you, like you were saying, hearing him in the back of your head, or what was that relationship like?
No, he was actually, I think it was more of him. He loved the game way more than me back when I was growing up. He was out playing just a ton, and I'd go along for the ride and kind of throw my forehands in the park, and the community in Hawaii was so awesome. The whole upbringing. Every time my dad brought me out, we would go to a course called uh, Poli Poli. It's up country on the side of a
Hmm.
volcano. It's like pretty hidden. No one really knows about it. And we'd do like monthlies up there, and I'd come along, and every time I'd be out there, people would just, "What's up, Parker? Yeah, he's slinging. Look at this kid sling!" Like all that sort of stuff. But I think that definitely helped just put positive memories uh, in like the disc golf background. So
Hmm.
disc golf has kind of always been there for me. We've had baskets in the yard, discs just non-stop, just everywhere. Uh, yeah, it's always just kind of been there.
So you were born in Hawaii and you grew up there until when? I know you spent some time in California now.
Yeah, I grew up until after high school, and then I moved away like literally 2 days after I graduated. And yeah, California's been sweet as well.
California has just such a rich disc golf history. I wanted to ask you though, Hawaii's disc golf culture and disc golf history is not as, rich and as firmly rooted. I know it's developed a lot over the years, but can you talk about Hawaii disc golf from your perspective, how it's grown?
Yeah, so I mean, Hawaii's just completely different on the disc golf spectrum. No one really follows like the actual correct rules. It's always just like we
Nice.
got the Hawaii Disc Golf Association. We don't got the Professional Disc Golf Association, and so it's always just been like easy going. Just how it is. The Hawaiian vibes is just
Hmm.
you just can't beat it. Everyone is just family out there. So everyone's just nice to each other and welcoming. And then I'm actually very thankful that I moved to Huntington Beach, and this four brothers that
Hmm.
run West Coast Disc Golf. They kind of took me under their wing, and they said like, okay, you can play for free at the Huntington Beach course.
Nice.
We'll give you like a little discount on some snacks and stuff, but you got to wear our stuff. So I had like a little semi sponsorship with West Coast Disc Golf, and I'm very thankful for that because if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't have taken disc golf seriously.
Wow. Were they also kind of your mentors in regards to, learning the game and taking it to the next level, or was that still your dad, or who were the people you looked up to in the game?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of switched up, and that goes back to like me being competitive. Uh, it was more of like playing with the great players at Huntington Beach, and we were just kind of pushing each other further and
Mm.
further and further. And we're always like, "No, I'm better than you. No, I'm better than you, man. Look at my rating. Look at your rating." That sort of thing. And I think that really like pushed me a lot more. And
Hmm.
having like the big ace pools on like the Friday doubles or in the Thursday weeklies, because it's disc golf is so popular in Huntington Beach. There's always at least a
Hmm.
$500 ace pool. So that got me out playing and trying to ace and trying my best.
And you made the decision to go on tour. I mean, you've probably told this story a bunch this year because this was the first big year and you played so well at this tournament. But for the people who are watching this that don't necessarily know how you went from Huntington Beach to now touring the country full time, what is maybe the synopsis, the summary of that story for you?
Yeah, I mean, I probably wasn't going to do it. I just applied for the Silver Tour Pass just to see. I didn't think they'd actually pick me. Ended up getting an email from Jeff Spring, and I got the silver pass, and I was just blown away. I couldn't believe it. So I was like, okay, what's the next step? I gotta get like an RV or something. I don't know what to do.
What do I do?
But I ended up, my parents had an RV, and they said I could use it. And then, so I was like, I really don't want to do this by myself. So I hit up my friend Jake Brown, and so we were gonna do it together. And then my RV kind of just like blew up, didn't really do what it was supposed to do. And then his
Wow.
parents actually bought a really nice trailer, and they were going to use it for retirement, but they said we could use it for the year. So if it wasn't for them, I definitely wouldn't have been on tour. So I'm very thankful
Wow.
for Jake's parents as well for that. And it was a very nice trailer. It was much better than the RV we had,
Hmm.
and I'm just thankful for that experience as well.
It's funny. It feels like in disc golf that it does take a village sometimes, and it feels like disc golf communities and the people who support them are just so generous with whether it's letting people sleep on their couch or giving people vehicles. The amount of times I've heard that story, Parker, is just it's incredible, and it's so endearing to listen to because yeah, of course. To let two people live their dreams out for a year, of course you can take the trailer. So that's awesome. And again, Jake Brown, another solid player in his own right. How are you guys as roommates and as co-competitors?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a learning experience for both of us. I
For
mean,
sure.
the pro tour is so much different than your B tier, your C tier that we were used to playing. So there's definitely a lot more of a learning curve, but for us as, roommates, he was great. I think we only had like one really like altercation where we were like, dude, stop being annoying, that sort of thing. And then after that, it was just like kind of smooth sailing, just learning each other's personalities.
Hmm.
Uh, it was a lot of fun hanging out with Jake for that whole time. He was a really good guy to be with because he was kind of pushing me to play more
Yeah.
disc golf like every single day. He was the guy that wanted to get to the next tournament and start the course because everyone's played it before us and we have the disadvantage. So he got me out there and he got me going playing like almost every day.
Well, that's
So that
what's
was good.
interesting about the tour is you do feel like you have to catch up. When you're the new guy, you're playing all these courses in tournament for the first time, and for someone like Calvin or Paul or Ricky or Eagle, these are like all their home courses because they've played here so many times. They have so many tournament rounds under their belt. They know what they're going to do in their sleep. So there's just a lot of information coming in for the very first time. That's how I felt in 2018 when I went out for the first time. It was like, oh wow, I also have to learn these tracks and then strategize around them within less than 5 days.
Yeah. And speaking of Jake Brown, I got to shout him out right here. I threw a horrible forehand right there. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm getting like tired right now. So I called him up real quick and I was like, Jake, can you please go to the store and just get me a Red Bull? And he shows up with like two Red Bulls, and I was like, dude, yes.
Wow, what a guy.
Yeah. Well, he knew what this was, and he was pretty much he might even been more hyped for me winning than me winning myself. So he was awesome.
Another
And that putt was
solid
huge.
putt. Yeah.
That putt was massive. I had a little bit of a headwind. It was a long putt. It really was. And on a raised basket, it's no gimme.
And now, right here, you're tied for the lead. Do you know that you're tied for the lead at this point? Like, are you one of those guys that always knows the score?
Yeah, but I actually wasn't tied for the lead. I'm back one.
Mm, mm.
But I
Yes.
knew I'm close, and I know that you know the guy that's probably gonna hold on would be Calvin over Alden. No offense to Alden. Alden's a great player, but like Calvin, number one, he's the guy that's gonna win this thing. And
Forehand. Talk about this. What's the play here? What's the thought?
the play is to get a three here every time, no matter what. Even if I throw it out of bounds, uh, you're gonna throw it in three shots. So if I go out of bounds right, I'll throw it to the pin, throw a putt up. If I land inbounds, I'll just throw it to the pin and take my eagle, or
I
a
see.
chance at eagle. Just throw it as far as you can down there, go out of bounds, or hopefully land safe. I landed safe the first two rounds,
And I mean, you still got a
and
pretty decent ways up there with the forehand.
yeah, that one definitely got away from me. It was way too early. I meant to put a little bit more angle on it so it would ride left around that big tree on the left.
Hmm.
Honestly, just a poor throw, really poor, but it was decently far out there.
This hole's hard.
Um,
Straight up, this tee
this hole
shot
is
is
very hard.
really difficult.
I go out of bounds on this whole backhand literally every time. I just cannot land inbounds backhand.
It just, yeah, it slopes down, it slopes away. There's usually wind pushing you in that direction.
Yeah, and the camera doesn't really show it, but it's like a pretty solid like right to left hill. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's like pretty steep. And so when you're and this shot, oh my God. I remember going up to Alden and be like, dude, like how's that safe? And he's like, I don't know, Parker.
Wow. The other thing is, there's probably spectators on the other side of that hill that didn't even know that disc was coming. That must have been inches from smacking somebody in the leg.
This was the bomb.
Wow. What? Wow. Are you serious? That's got to be what, 460?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was actually a little bit more because
Yikes.
the I'm still pretty short of the pin. Um, but probably one of my furthest like throws on all hyzer I've ever thrown.
What stability of driver do you like to throw forehands with?
Um, I kind of do a little bit of everything. I usually throw fairly overstable. There's not a lot of discs that can like really handle the torque that you're looking for, so you got to
Mm-hmm.
stick to normally like one mold and find like the beefiest run of it, and then like
Mm-hmm.
kind of beat that one in a little bit. But I usually stay away from the understable when I throw forehand. So right now I'm throwing like D1s mostly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That one specifically, someone like gave it to me. And I was like, okay, I'll just use it as a water disc, whatever. I was playing the Memorial with it, and it was a bunch of water, so I was just hucking it over water. I'm like, dang, this thing flies good. Okay,
Yeah.
this is like a really trustworthy disc. This is gonna be like my main dog, and it's been my main dog ever since.
So you stay away from hyzer flips, or does that can you still pull them off when you need to?
Yeah, I mean, when I hurt my ankle bad at Northwood Black,
Mm.
I busted out some of the craziest angles that anyone's probably ever seen on the sidearms. Like the crazy, super understable putter, throw it on like a spike hyzer, have it flip up to flat and ride left sort of thing. So it's there, but it's obviously not what you really. It's not your high percent shot. My high percent shot is
Definitely.
like overstable as possible and just
Yeah.
flex it.
Alden kind of left this one short, so he's just going to get nice simple five. At least we think he still gave himself a little bit of work, but
Yeah, he's
yeah,
pretty close, but he definitely got away with one on that second shot back there. So he'll take the five for sure.
definitely. I mean, this is when we've seen double digit numbers on numerous times. And here you are
Yeah,
from 35-40 again.
up and in.
It's just it's just looking so smooth right now. I mean, at this point, you got to be feeling like, wow, I can't miss right now. The basket looks huge.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it was this weekend. You have your tournaments where it's like, dude, the basket's so small, but this was definitely one where the basket was a little bigger. I was feeling the putt. I was confident with everything I was doing. And, I think that's how everyone should play is just play confident, play like
Mm-hmm.
you're that guy. And
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely something I'm going to take with me rolling into 2024.
Yeah, I've heard it described as a controlled arrogance. Like you don't want to be a harmful person, but you got to bring this kind of bit of swagger onto the course. I mean, you owe it to yourself. It's a solo game, and yeah, now you're going up against the best players in the game, and we're getting to. This is, in my opinion, the iconic hole on this property.
Yeah, definitely one of the harder ones, I think. This play here was just I threw it out of bounds left, I think, the first two rounds. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you're gonna throw a hyzer. It's gonna go in the woods probably, but it's not gonna be out of bounds
Oh, so
because
you're like
going.
hard playing the miss.
Yeah, I was not going out of bounds left this time. I almost hit a spectator round two. If you guys go back and watch round two, it just went left straight. I'm happy it didn't go in the water up there.
Yeah, I think backhand here is probably like the play that shapes the hole better, but it's still, again, like you said, tricky because you're fading towards that OB, and he's still, even with a shot that was not really fading that hard, he's almost out of bounds. But that's a perfect shot.
Yeah, yeah, but that's where you want to be. You want to be as close to the out of
Yeah,
bounds as possible, pretty much.
yeah, I kind of like that element of course design where You kind of have to play chicken with the out of bounds to give yourself a decent angle, and that's exactly what this hole number 9 does. I think it's just one of the coolest holes we see in a golf course all year round.
Yeah, there's nothing really like it on a golf course. So
No,
this is, I'm agreeing with you there on like more of the one of the more iconic holes, but hole 16 is probably in my book
you're right.
the one.
You are right about that. Yeah, I mean, where Alden is, you can get up and down, but he has to throw something spectacular. What are you looking at here?
A little bit of nothing. I'm kind of chopping it out there. Just don't throw it too far. Don't go to bounds. Don't go back in the bushes. Just get in the grass. And
That's perfect.
perfectly executed. That's exactly what I was trying to do. Because this OB line on the left up there is it comes into play. It really does.
Yes. It seems to get tighter and tighter every year where they're really wanting you to go for the mouth of the green. It looks a
And
little
I
early.
yeah, I was standing behind him and I thought that shot was just like not. It was just I mean, he thought it was horrible too. But when he got it to his line, I saw he was putting for birdie. I was like, how did this get here? What's going on?
Just snuck far enough on the inside, and now he has, circle one edge, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit outside circle one, I
Mm-hmm.
believe.
So yeah, this is that crazy patent pending or reverse pivot that Alden's trying to throw here.
Which is such a tough shot. I mean, that's one of the hardest shots you can do in my opinion. I'm horrible
Mm-hmm.
at like the patent pending sort of shots, and I kind of get away with it a little bit for having like I can stretch out like a straddle forehand for the
Mm-hmm.
most part.
Yeah, I've noticed that with a few players that at all costs they will try to lean on just some weird straddle forehand rather than having to stretch out and throw the backhand because it's like you said, it's a tough release point to hit consistently.
My body just doesn't work that way. I haven't practiced it enough either. So
Yeah, and that's all you need to do. I mean, you put it down to the bottom of the hill, 15, 20 footer uphill.
yeah, that's
How's
kind of
your
the
mom at
collection
this
zone for
point?
me.
How's your
She's
mom at this point?
she was silent. I told her before the round. She normally is like super supportive and like comments on every shot, like, "Wow, that was a nice shot," even if I like kind of shank it and stuff. And I told her before the round, like, please don't do that. It like kind of gets in my head if like I throw like kind of a bad shot, and then she'll be like, "It's okay, you'll make it," or like you'll get up
Yeah,
and down or something like that. And it's like I just pulled that straight into a tree, like,
it
um,
wasn't a good bid.
but yeah, but she was awesome. She just stayed kind of quiet for me. I know she was so nervous. She told me after the round she was just insanely nervous the entire time. She didn't really know what was going on with the scores. But yeah, and Calvin
Probably
missed
a
that one.
good
That was
thing.
huge for me.
Matt got a little bit of a long one down the hill. Are you starting to feel like sighs of relief come once you start seeing other players that were chasing you start to drop?
As in other people on the like not our card, or
Probably on your card specifically. Were
because
were you looking at
I
the scores?
I was I was not looking at scores. I just knew what we were at on everyone on my card.
I
I just
see.
keep a mental note there, but I don't actually look at scores because I think Ricky this day was like maybe 10 under something. Might have been ahead of
Yes.
us, or I don't even know who it was, but yeah. And this hole's a new hole for me. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I remember on post commentary they were like, "Why isn't Perger throwing the forehand flex?" I was like, I didn't even know that was a play. Like,
Yeah, I remember during the Worlds, Gossage was throwing his own forehand on it. I believe Paul tried doing the same thing. But it's a tricky shape, though. I don't think you're home safe with either spin.
yeah, and I remember walking up there and being like, "Okay, I'll just throw a backhand and just have it go as straight as possible and barely fade left, just so those like row of trees where these guys are about to land, just
Yeah.
I didn't want to mess with those. It's kind of like a wall of death.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to be there."
Yeah, it's kind of a tricky little hole. I mean, they combined a couple, I believe, correct? This is the tee shot of 10, but then the basket is in a longer position
Yeah.
compared to the World Championships that I had mentioned.
Yeah, so they just combined the two holes in a row.
Yeah. How much room do you have to get left on the tee shot? This is a tough lie for you right here.
Yeah, it's honestly not too bad. It looks a lot trickier than it actually is. It's just me trying to get a wider stance makes it look harder, but it's just a regular straddle for me, and I'm pretty comfortable with this. So I'm actually pretty happy that I landed there.
Nice. Well done. Did you ever play any Ultimate in your younger years?
Yeah, actually, it was I think I started in middle school, and I think we gotta
Wow.
continue that story after that shot. Um, yeah, I couldn't believe that he did that. I was like looking at my mom with my jaw dropped. I was like, what just happened? I could not believe it.
It felt like he had some other options too, but he tried to go up the gut, and I mean, confidence is
Yeah,
confidence.
but then again, he's playing so well up until this point.
Hmm.
He's feeling it. He already made like three really nice putts. He's
Hmm.
well under par. This gap is going to be nothing for him to hit. But just a slight misfire.
Yeah, it's easy to go back in time and say, "Oh, yeah, you should have done this differently." But yeah, like you said, if you're
Exactly.
feeling it, you're feeling it. You're gonna go for the small gap if you're leading a giant tournament. This is a hard event to win.
Yeah, and Alden's not known for his sidearm, uh,
Hmm.
but he still has one, I think. But
Yeah,
he was
oh,
just putting it
definitely.
back in.
And it really comes down to one or two mistakes at a time, especially when everybody's at the top. I think there's so
Yeah,
many
you
good
you
players. Yeah.
you pretty much have to play perfect out here. You can't throw it out of bounds, or you're gonna lose at least a stroke to the
Hmm.
whole entire field. Um, you just got to be on.
I mean, you look at the leaderboard right now. Orem is three off you guys, and he's in fifth place. I mean, and that's one or two hole swing right there. It can easily flip flop.
Yeah, and great poise by Alden there. That putt was no gimme, but he made it look solid.
And now this is your chance. This is a big chance for you.
Hmm. A little nervous there. Took a big breath on this one, but going through that routine again, even though I am pretty close, just to knock it in.
I don't think I've seen your putter hit the ground pretty much at all at this point. I mean, you're
Yeah.
playing as good a golf as you could possibly play. I mean, you're on 1060, 1070 pace. I mean, maybe a couple tiny micro errors that got you a par instead of a birdie.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this course fits me so well. It's
Hmm.
just a ton of like bomb forehands and make your putts, and that's kind of how
Hmm.
it is. And I want to talk about this tee pad. This tee pad is it was not friendly to me ever. So if you saw it there, I actually teed off from like 2 feet behind where everyone else is gonna tee off, just because I slipped like crazy the first two rounds.
Interesting.
And I think that it was just in my head, and I got lucky to even stay in bounds there because there's that OB line on the right.
This is a tough hole. This is a really interesting low ceiling shot. If I were to pick a single player to throw this one, I think it's this guy right here.
I agree.
395 going 7 speed. Still, no one's home safe on this one. This is just really
Yeah.
challenging, but he's got a shot.
And the hole is tricky. It's a lot further than what it actually looks on the tee pad, just because the curve of the little hill that you have to
Hmm.
go over, and then it's back down it a little bit. So it is really tricky.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
did
all
not see
these
a lot of
guys.
people even land close on this hole the entire time.
I mean, he almost hit the ceiling and he was 3 feet off the ground. This is
Yeah.
just a really niche shot. And I think this is a newer hole, and I know there's some OB at least somewhere near the basket.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's OB right the entire way, and then there's OB on the left, yeah, there is OB on the left, but it's far. It's for the other hole as well.
Alden gets to 45, 50. You're pretty far away. This is not really necessarily throw in range. Are you thinking throw in whatsoever, or are you just thinking please touch the
Um,
pole?
I I'm not sure. It's gonna look like I was trying to throw it in, but I think and it almost did go in. It was
Hmm.
kind of close. But at this point, I don't want to putt. I just want to be as close as
Of
possible.
course.
I don't want to start feeling any nerves because if I miss one putt, then I'm gonna be like, oh my goodness, and I don't want to go down that hill.
Yeah, you get, 3, 4, 30 footers in a row, and stuff starts to feel really small and nervy at that point. Calvin doesn't get the birdie. This is a hole I believe averaged over par, at least on the final day. Really challenging shot. So I don't think getting a par here is not too shabby.
Yeah, no, I mean, especially after the break I got on the tee shot, I hit a tree and it just like kind of stopped me there instead of kicking me right. It could have
Hmm.
very easily kicked me out of bounds. But and I love this. I love the body language of Matteo. He is so awesome.
Sometimes his body weight goes forward. Sometimes he literally falls back after releasing the disc. Like you have no idea where he's going. But I believe he was like 38% C2 on the season. So you can't really argue with those results.
No, and I got to know him pretty well this year. I stayed with him during Maple Hill, and him and I were just kind of playing video games together, Super
Nice.
Mario Smash Bros, some Mario Kart together, like literally all day, every day. So it was a really cool experience to kind of hang out with him during that time.
He's really interesting when he talks about the game as well. You can tell he never thinks about like mechanics or footwork or anything. He always calls himself a hand player. And I just like, I totally understand what he's saying. I don't think I've heard anybody else say that. But can't argue with his results, like I said. This is a beautiful shot from you here.
Yeah, those, everyone thought I was gonna do like the forehand spike hyzer. Then again, I'm just hearing my dad in my head, do not hang it over the out of bounds. Because we saw Emerson, he threw it like kind of wide, and I think he hit like a spectator's bag or something like that, and he stayed out of bounds in round two. So I just was
Mm-hmm.
not messing with it. And great shot by Calvin. Gets kind of an unlucky break there. He would have
Is that a
been
stump?
marked if he didn't hit that. Yeah, I think it was a stump that wasn't like cut fully.
Starting to get a little tense right now. Now it's you and Calvin coming down the stretch. Alden's down two.
And that stays in bounds. So I'm pretty sure that stays in bounds. So he's happy with that result because that was definitely a shank.
This is a tough lie.
And during our practice round, we were actually messing around with this like kind of zone over here, trying to putt through the trees and stuff. We were actually having a good time on this hole.
I think he was maybe a degree of Annie away from dunking that, but now again, he's still two off. You have a chance for birdie here.
Yeah, and the putter's feeling great. I feel like I'm not missing anything for the rest of the round. I'm stepping up to this pretty confident. And just an inch too high. I kind of shrugged my shoulders like, okay, that was a great putt. It very well could have
Mhm.
dropped. Oh well. Don't change anything.
Yeah, at
I
least you're
didn't
not
feel
missing
any.
low.
Yeah, there was no nerves even after that putt. Normally if you like miss left or right, you're like, okay, what the heck just happened? That one, I wouldn't have even changed the putt if I could do it a
Mhm.
second time.
And this is for the lead. This is from 35, 30, maybe 33 feet. Got it.
Carded. Yeah. You can see he's a little fired up there. He picked up his
Mm-hmm.
mini with some aggression. And man, he's got to hit those. I was pretty surprised on that miss.
Talk about 13, Parker. This is daunting.
Yeah, so I'm happy they moved the OB up because I couldn't even throw it far enough to even land in bounds at Worlds where the OB line was like pushed a little bit further towards the
Mm-hmm.
basket. So it's still like a full pump for even like to get there. It's I have to throw it as hard as I can pretty much. So I busted out all reliable and I
What is
think I
all
just tried to throw it
reliable?
too hard. That's a
What disc?
750 Kevin Jones D1 or something like that. And just threw it too hard. I couldn't tell if I flipped it over or if I rolled my wrist. It just didn't really do it. So I elected to move up because the hole is so far that
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think I could get it there from the tee pad. Even
And
then, just circles edge.
that's nervy. And now Calvin has a long look for birdie. We've seen him make these multiple times throughout the year. The flag is still. And
Missed.
doesn't fall. You see down in the bottom right corner. We heard you say some words about the UDisc win probability, but they have Calvin at 77% right now. I,
I think that's accurate. I think what did it say, 14 for me right now?
it said like 13, I believe, and then I think the beginning of the day it said you were 1% or something like that.
Yeah. So I mean, if I missed this, I lost. And if you look at the background, the wind was actually firing for me right there on that putt. And I was thinking, like, why does Calvin get no wind and I get literally just like the heaviest wind ever right now?
Jammed it. It's a
Yeah,
great
so I was
save.
happy with that. After I threw that tee shot, I went to my mom and I was like, I just lost, and it was kind of just like a moment in my head. I
Wow.
was just like, well, it was a good run. Like, I mean, I probably gained a little bit of fans, that was good for me, but I'm not winning. And then Calvin steps up and does this, and I can only assume that he's thinking I'm gonna eagle it no matter what, so
Hmm.
he's trying to get it down the fairway a little bit more, or is maybe just a misfire, or I I, I don't know what what happened there, but he's scratching his head. He knows he didn't do the right thing there. For
There's
me, I'm like,
just
oh, I went to like a super serious face instead of like goofing off. I'm not goofing off anymore. I'm like, let's get this done now.
wow. Completely throwing out of your shoes. Huge. I think if you're going backhand, it's such a big mistake to miss all of the green space off to the right side. I mean, he's got to be kicking himself at this point.
Yeah, I mean, and another thing I wanted to point out was I played this course with Paul Macbeth during practice at Worlds, and that was the only time I really played with him. And he doesn't throw a lot of forehands. He was throwing like a lot of backhand, like touchy, like soft turnover shots, and I was trying to
Hmm.
copy his line. And I think that's why I didn't play too good at Worlds last year. So I was doing my own thing this year.
Working
And
a
there's
lot
Jake Brown in the
better.
background screaming at me, and it just gets caught up on just some grass or something. If it like hits like the top of the hill or it hits like some harder grass, I'm like within 15, 20 feet.
Hmm.
But I'm happy it stayed in bounds.
This is Calvin's fourth. He's going to have a putt for par. You have an opportunity for eagle from well, like inside circle two.
Yeah,
What are you thinking as you walk up to this lie?
I gotta jam it. This is my time right now. I remember like just telling myself like, how bad do you want this right now? Like, do you want it at all? And so staring it down, threw it up,
Wow. That is
got it.
so good.
And that was it. That was it right there. That putt really did it for me. I think the forehand, the upshot, like really fired me up, throwing it that hard, and the putt was getting me going. And after I hit the putt, my demeanor changed, dude. I was winning after that.
I
It was
mean, you went
crazy,
from, wow.
crazy how quick, everything changes. I went from losing probably like whatever the percent was after I made the bogey. It,
Hmm.
it probably went down even. Uh, Pretty much losing to being the favorite here.
What are you thinking after this miss? Are you just jaw dropped? Like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, it was pretty wild, honestly. I couldn't believe it. Calvin's. Oh, I still have 39%. I'm not the favorite yet. Um, yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe Calvin did that.
I mean, he's opening the door for you, and you capitalize perfectly with the giant hyzer on this shot. It's just funny how soon you counted yourself out. You were just, the win percentages were low, but you were telling yourself, I've already lost. I've lost this tournament on the hole prior
Yeah,
to that. And now you're like, okay, I am now
it
deciding
was
to win this
weird. It
tournament.
was such a roller coaster of emotions for me. I mean, I seriously, I was out. I was like, okay, whatever, cool. And then boom, I'm winning. What the heck happened? Very next hole. Hearts
And
it. He's not giving up.
exactly. But he's just got to keep up with you at this point. And then we come up to
Right.
16.
And look at the water here. Have you ever seen it this calm? Probably not. I mean,
No, no. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, in practice, if the wind is up, people are throwing driver on this hole, like hard driver on this shot. But when the wind's down, you can go putter and just smash one at the basket. So different, so wind dependent.
yeah, and I like the wall behind it because you can throw it into the wall and give yourself like a circle's edge, maybe a little bit further than circle's edge look,
Hmm.
but it's straight at water, so it's like risk reward. really, really kind of a sketchy hole. Definitely a two-stroke
Yes.
swinging hole if it's definitely possible.
Well, Calvin steps up in the clutch and pretty much matches your line. You guys both have 15 footers to the basket. Like you said, I have to agree with you. Nine might be my favorite hole in the course, but the hole that defines this property is hole number 16. I think it's one of the best island shots that we have.
I agree. I mean, it's just so pretty with the green grass and the water carry, and you're on like the dock when you're teeing off.
Mm-hmm.
It really is awesome.
Two more holes
There's no
left.
nerves. Yeah, there's no nerves right now. I mean, people are calling my name. I'm just kind of playing disc golf, and there's only one more moment where there's nerves in this tournament, and I'll tell you when we get there. But this tee shot, I thought it was going to be absolutely perfect. That was not going out of bounds on the tee shot, but it hits the tree, and I'm lucky it didn't like kick me out of bounds. But
Mm-hmm.
it was going to be like the best drive ever if it missed that tree and went through. I probably would have been like 15 feet off the OB line, just way down there, nothing in the way.
Still good. Still good to be on the right side. Opportunity to
Yeah,
cut the corner. Calvin's got Destroyer in his hand.
and
Oh boy.
blown away again. Like he's made some like two or three like mistakes that he probably has never done in his entire life this round. Um, he probably wasn't expecting to be battling with me. He was expecting to be battling
Yeah.
with Matteo, with Alden, not Parker Welck. But that might have thrown him off a little bit now that he's like trying to catch me.
I
And
mean,
this
look at him
shot,
going.
this shot is insane. Like, you've been there. You know how far this shot is to even stay in bounds from there.
Yeah. It's so
That's a
intentional.
mash.
Yeah. You have to just be so intentional to cut the corner like that. And being, 50, 60 feet back, that's not easy. Here's what I'm thinking about, though, Parker. You're throwing this insane, drive. You're way up there. Even though it got caught up, you're way up there. Anthony Barella got 200 feet past that earlier in the week. Do you remember the shot that people were talking about?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, this hole is so tricky.
I like that you can do like a bunch of different things in this as well. I
Mhm.
normally throw a forehand over the top, but I was a little bit shorter than uh oh, and that's hilarious. My rangefinder broke on that, so I had no idea what I was doing. And I was like messing with it, goofing off with it, and I was like, whatever, we're just gonna throw the driver so we don't land short because I had a fairway in my hand as well, and I'm really happy I chose the driver because I probably would have been short.
And again, you right up next to the basket. I mean, you're on fire right now. There's no touching you. You're a stroke ahead of Calvin.
And Calvin has to throw it in. He's trying his best to throw it in here, and I don't think the camera angle does it justice, but that was going in. That was literally going in from our angle behind him, but
Hmm.
it swaps to the camera in front. And it's like, okay, it missed by a mile, but from back there it was in, and I was definitely scared on that, and that like pumped my blood up a little bit. And this was the only nervous time for the rest of the round was hitting this little short putt because I had like
Really,
the spike of adrenaline, like holy cow, how did he just miss that? That should have gone in.
the wind started to feel real to you at this point.
Yeah, and a little bit extra power on that putt. Super
That's a
nervous
great
though.
birdie. That's a great, great birdie. I don't care what the wind conditions are in this hole. A three on that
Yeah,
hole is good every single time.
absolutely. I mean, it's definitely a hard birdie to get. It takes two really good shots to even get into circle one.
Talk about where your head's at on this tee.
I just want to keep it in bounds. Busted out old trusty again. Put a little bit of flex on it. This disc was flying great for me all week. I knew if I just landed in bounds, I'd probably win the tournament. And right where I wanted it. I don't think I could have thrown that any better. Nodding my head. I'm him right there.
I mean, Calvin's got to do something spectacular pretty much, and you have to pretty much make
I
a
have to
mistake. A par wins
have
it.
to mess up pretty bad here in order to lose this. But I thought Calvin would go for like the island, like the huge
Hmm.
flex shot. Give himself like
Yeah.
a 80 footer or something.
Were you seeing players earlier in the week getting up there, like just practicing the aggressive line?
No, nobody. This is
Yeah.
the only situation where someone like Calvin or Anthony Barella or Simon or someone like that could really even go for it. A guy like me, I can't even go to that second like landing zone with a huge flex line. You got to
Hmm.
throw like what, like maybe 580 in order to even like get
Huge.
there or something. Yeah. So I had my FX2 in my hand. I was gonna go forehand over the top, and then I remembered yesterday I rolled away. So today I just, had my dad in my ear again. Keep it over the inbounds the entire way. Don't even give it a chance to go out of bounds.
Hmm.
That's all you need.
I mean, look at that. That's a layup away from a victory. At this point, are you thinking, "Wow, I've done it," or are you trying
Yeah.
not to let that thought creep into your head?
Well, Calvin can still throw it in. So I'm waiting for Calvin before I said anything. Is
Hmm.
my mom saying, "Good job." All I'm doing is waiting for Calvin. He can throw this in no problem, dude. It's Calvin Heimberg. Like anything can happen.
And he's about 370, maybe 350 from the basket from here.
And if he makes it, I'm for sure airballing my putt straight in the water. So I'm happy that this happened. And right when that touched the ground, I went to my mom, gave her a hug, and I said, "I just won." I mean, that was such a crazy moment. Now I'm just smiling. It all changed. Gosh, what a crazy moment.
I feel like it's so difficult to win on tour, and yet we're seeing more unique winners than ever before because of the talent that just keeps rising. I mean, you join a class of newer touring players that all have the capability of winning, and now Calvin Heimberg just fist pumps you and says, "Hey, you beat me." What's going on right now? What are you feeling? Just overwhelmed?
You get completely overwhelmed with so many different emotions, and I'm happy I didn't get stroked for throwing the mini at it too. Thanks, Calvin. That would have been a hilarious thing to do, just stroke me for the mini. But yeah, I mean, my mom's crying underneath the glasses.
Ladies and
It's
gentlemen,
just
your
it's a weird feeling.
2023
Mhm.
Dynamic Disc Open champion, Parker Welck.
You join a list, a small list of players that win this tournament. It's not common for someone who comes here and it's one of their first times playing the courses at this level and takes down the victory. I mean, what a performance, man! But really, like you said, it's the putting. I mean, all day you were just dunking these late circle one, early circle two putts. You were putting in crazy amounts of hours on the putting green. How did it feel now looking back, watching that victory again?
Yeah, I mean, it just felt like everything was coming together and it felt repeatable. So
Mhm.
I'm definitely looking to get another win here. This coming up year. I think I'm ready for it.
Well, let's talk about that. From this victory at DDO, what are you bringing into 2024 season? What are you working on this off season? What are you doing to prepare?
Doing a little bit of everything. I actually just moved to Arizona so I could have like a little bit more competitive area, hanging out with Ezra Aderhold, Tristan Tanner, Anthony Barella, Drew Gibson,
Nice.
get that sort of competition under my belt and have it really feel like I'm playing the best in the world because I am playing the best in the world out here.
Mhm.
And we're doing everything. We're hitting the gym. We're playing video games a lot. We're doing a lot of practice, and I'm doing a bunch of lessons as well, so I could teach other people how to play,
Nice.
which is something that I really am proud of doing. I love teaching. Um, yeah,
Well, hey, Parker, I got to say thank you so much for your time and sharing your thoughts and insights with us. With that said, I want to give you one last opportunity. What do you have to say to the fans watching at home?
thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate all the fans that supported me on this tour this past year. All the support has been just absolutely crazy. I see all like the messages and DMs like Parker, you're my favorite player. I'm like me. I can't be someone's favorite player. I'm just Parker Welck. But it's uh it's been really cool just having all you guys here for me and let's get it. 2024.
Well, with that said, we are going to wrap things up here at the Winner's Circle. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Peace.